Ladies and gentlemen, welcome and good morning. Welcome to this second part of this CAP event entitled Regions and Cities, Role in the New European Research Area and Opportunities for Horizon Europe. For those of you connecting now in this second part, just let me remind you what a CAP is, the Knowledge Exchange Platform. This was very well explained in the introductory statement by Commissioner Gabriel and by President Tsitsikos of the Committee of the Regions. And in fact, the CAP is a knowledge exchange platform, an initiative jointly developed by Committee of the Regions and the European Commission, Research and Innovation, that is running since 2015 with the idea of creating the link and the policy dialogue between regions and policymakers on one side and the research community on the other side. This is starting in 2015, and if you are still here today organizing these events under the CAP, it's because it has been considered successful, and the Committee of the Regions as well has been extremely interested in continuing together with our Commissioner as well. The initiative has been renewed under the Joint Action Plan adopted in November that consists of 26 actions of collaboration that expands as well to the area of education and culture. So here we are for this second part of the event. The CAP are normal events where the regions can propose certain topics of discussion, and the topics of discussion for this second part of the event is indeed Horizon Europe. So there was a lot of interest, in fact, on the opportunities that Horizon Europe can indeed propose to regions, and also to show how the regions can engage in Horizon Europe. Of course, during the past months, we have been saying how much Horizon Europe was an open program, open to all stakeholders, including regions and cities. But is this true? So, if we look at Horizon Europe, indeed, that has been adopted on the 12th of April, and now we have even the work program adopted in the mid of June, it has brought a lot of novelties. And this will be discussed today. Well, first of all, it has the fruit of a long and strategic planning process that has brought to a wide consultation, the wider of all the framework programs until now, where all stakeholders could indeed bring their voice, including regions and cities. And then, very important novelties, we find missions and partnership where citizens are really at the center, citizens and regions, of course, as the place where citizens live and all the stakeholders, and the innovation ecosystem as well. We have a specific part where regions are mentioned. So throughout the whole program, apart from these specific novelties, we will see regions and cities mentioned several times. We counted 70 topics, but with our colleagues afterwards in the panel, we will go in details of that. And of course, there is another important approach, that is the new approach to synergies, much more integrated synergies with the cohesion policy. And when we talk about regions, of course, and cities, the links with the cohesion policies is very strong. That's why synergies are extremely important. All these novelties are in the program now. They are in the regulation, they are in the work programs. But what does it mean really for regions? What exactly we are expecting from them? To what extent regions and cities are expected to be aware of all these things and to participate? And how are they ready to come on board? What they need to do in order to come and to seize all these opportunities? We will talk about all this with our distinguished speakers, and I'm very pleased to introduce them to you. So first of all, here together with me in the studio, it's Rosalind van der Vlies, Director of the Clean Planet in DG R&I. And then we have instead connected via video Nicola De Michelis, Director for Smart and Sustainable Growth and Program Implementation in DG Regio. Markku Markkula, Vice President of the Committee of the Regions and member of the Board of the Helsinki Regional Council and Chairman of the Espoo City Council. And then, last but not least, Tanja Hirshova, member of the European Committee of the Regions and mayor of Gabrovo in Bulgaria. I will give the floor and ask some questions to our speakers, and then there will be the time for the audience to propose some questions and to go deeper in the things that you consider more relevant to you. And for that we have a chat, and I invite you already to start putting your questions while the speakers are presenting. So without further ado, I move to the questions, and I start with Rosalinde. So indeed you are director of the Clean Planet, and therefore you are directly responsible for the design of Cluster 5 in Horizon Europe. And there, of course, it's very much linked to climate, to transport, mobility and energy, so key challenges for the Commission. And we always think about the challenges that are for the citizen, but we have to think about citizens and regions being part as well of the solution. So, as we were saying, Horizon Europe has been adopted on the 12th of April. So what you can say that is in there for regions, especially for what regards the European missions and partnerships, you are responsible for a few of them. What can regions do for missions, and what missions can do for the regions? Please, floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Magda, and good morning, everybody. It's a real pleasure for me to be here with you on this very important session. And it was already mentioned that the Horizon work programs now have been adopted. And we are, of course, very proud that Horizon Europe, with 95.5 billion euros for the next 7 years, is actually the biggest research and innovation framework program that is funded by public authorities in the whole world. And in the European Union, we have, of course, a very ambitious policy. We have the European Green Deal, and we have set ourselves the ambition to become the first climate-neutral continent by 2050. And, of course, this will not be possible without huge investments in research and innovation. And the regions and the cities will play a key role in this transition because the regions and cities are really the key actors of change that we need for this transition in Europe. If we look, for example, at cities alone, cities are responsible for 70% of greenhouse gas emissions in European Union. So it's very clear that we need to act together and work together in order to really accelerate the transition that the European Union is needing. So with the Horizon Europe publication of the work program, it was already mentioned, there are very important novelties, and I would like to zoom in to two particular novelties of the Horizon Europe work program, namely the missions and the partnerships. And the missions are really centered very, very closely on the involvement of the citizens and the regions. And of course, the regions have been participating already before in previous framework program. In Horizon 2020, the 7% of all participants were the regions, and in total, out of the Horizon 2020 program, 3.15% of the funding went to the regions. But I really think that with these new instruments in Horizon Europe, in particular with the missions, we will see a very important shift in the participation of the local actors in our framework program. And let me say a bit more about two specific missions, the cities mission and the climate adaptation mission, because in these two missions, the cities and the regions are really playing the key role. In the cities mission, the objective is to have at least 100 climate-neutral cities in the European Union by 2030, and also that these cities will act as an experimentation hub at basically stimulating all the cities in the European Union to become climate-neutral by 2050. So the starting point of this mission is that it is directly targeting at the cities. So we are at the moment preparing an implementation plan, a detailed plan to roll out the mission if we get the green light, hopefully after the summer. And then the starting point will be the cities. And the novelty of this mission is that we plan to have a bottom-up approach, so really tailored towards each individual city needs. And then through the mission, we will support these cities to develop a climate city contract and a related investment plan. Because we know that many cities in the European Union are very eager to become climate neutral, but there are many challenges that are being faced, including the lack of financing and funding, lack of expertise, political barriers. So with the cities mission, we will be supporting the cities also to make sure that the climate city contract, so basically the roadmap to climate neutrality, will be developed developed together also with the stakeholders and the citizens involved through innovative governance models. We will also set up, in the context of the cities mission, a network with member states and regions for the exchange of knowledge and capacity building to support the cities as much as possible in this pathway to climate neutrality. Now, closely linked, of course, is the mission on adaptation, and there the objective is to have 150 regions that will become climate resilient by 2030. And again, we will set up a policy network together with the Covenant of Mayors, and both missions will also support the cities in reaping the benefits from synergies with additional funding sources next to Horizon Europe, for instance, with the structural funds. So with these new instruments, we really hope to mobilize the cities and make actually the cities and the regions the key players of these instruments. Now, moving on to partnerships. The partnerships are a very important instrument to work together with industry, member states, but we can see that with Horizon Europe, we really also make a step change in the approach to the partnerships. So with the partnerships, they will now be much more impact-focused and much more open. In the past, we had this clear distinction between the public-private partnerships and the public-private partnerships. Now we have the three types of partnerships, and we really encourage the openness and the participation of all the relevant partners in these partnerships. So we will make sure that there will be, from the outset, from the design and the setup of the partnerships, clear links established with the regional level. For instance, for the institutionalized partnerships, we will have a single basic act that is currently being negotiated by the member states. And there will be two specific groups that will be active in the institutionalized partnerships, the advisory groups and the state representative groups, that will look specifically in how we can better link the activities of the partnerships with the regional and local activities. And already at this moment, to give you an example, the Clean Sky Partnership has concluded more than 30 memoranda of understanding with regions in order to reap the benefits of synergies with the regional level. And in the future, the Clean Aviation Partnership, through the State Representative Group, will particularly focus on having a sequenced funding also at regional level for the investments that will be made through the partnership. Let me also highlight another very big priority, and this is hydrogen. As you know, hydrogen is a big priority also in the transition, the green transition and the achievement of our objectives of the European Green Deal. And the Fuel Cell and Hydrogen Partnership is funding a European Hydrogen Valley Partnership where more than 30 regions and cities are participating and building at the regional level the hydrogen economy. These activities will be continued in the forthcoming Clean Hydrogen Partnership, and we will be very much focusing on setting up also these hydrogen valleys in regions that at this moment do not yet benefit from a hydrogen valley and from building up the local hydrogen economy. So there will be many opportunities with these new instruments in Horizon Europe, and we are very much looking forward to collaborating with the regions and the cities to make sure that we will be delivering on our European Green Deal and the climate neutrality for the European Union in practice. I'll stop here, Magda, and very much look forward to the future discussion. Thank you.
Rosalinde, thanks a lot. You gave a lot of food for thought, a lot of initiatives. So the answer to my first question is indeed yes, there is a lot for regions and cities. This is clear for what you presented, and this is in missions and also in partnership. You mentioned the Climate City contract, the hydrogen valleys, really something very, very interesting that I'm sure a lot of people that are listening to us will be interesting to know more about. But thanks a lot. Without continuing on that, and maybe we will have time to come back to that, I pass now to the next speakers, because of course, as soon as we talk about regions and cities, our mind goes immediately to the initiatives to support regions and cities to improve their performance and to cohesion. So, Nicola, you're here with us, and in fact, our two services have been working a lot together, a lot to create this, the simplification of the implementation of synergies, complementarities between the two programs, which is fundamental exactly also for regions to be able to participate in Horizon, or eventually to exploit at the maximum what they have achieved through participation in Horizon. Regions and, of course, their stakeholders. So, of course, it is a lot about funding, it's a lot about rules, but maybe it's not only a matter of rules. So what you can tell us about what has changed in this new programming period, and in fact how regions in this new context can indeed make a synergic use of funds and maximize in this way their impact. So, Nicola, the floor is yours.
Magda, thank you very much, and thanks to all of you for joining us on this real and less real virtual platform. Let me start from a slightly different angle. The Regional Innovation Scoreboard that was presented a few days ago shows that there is in Europe still a significant so-called innovation divide, big disparities in the way in which territories, local authorities, regions are performing. In fact, the scoreboard suggests that the most performing regions are 9 times more innovative than the least performing. And this is holding back the economic development. And in fact, it's probably one of the most important causes of the disparities that still exist in economic and social terms in Europe. And this is clearly one of the mission of cohesion policy, to try to address those disparities, but not only. Because if you are unable to untap all the capacities out there and ensure that all territories contribute to the innovation agenda at the European level, the entire ecosystem is, in a sense, less performing than otherwise. We cannot leave regions on the sideline because otherwise the result will be suboptimal. And this is why over the past few years, in fact, as you said, Magda, we have looked very carefully at how to improve and make easier to establish complementarities and synergies between the different funding instruments, and in particular between Horizon on the one hand and cohesion policy on the other. The new regulations that will govern cohesion policy 21-27 will enter into force on the 1st of July. And you will find in those regulations a number of mechanisms that will indeed facilitate those synergies. There will be possibility, if regions and member states so decide, to transfer resources to Horizon to ensure that the transferring territories will benefit from Horizon activities. There will be the possibility to combine funding in an easier way, building on the rules of the different instruments. We will continue with the seal of excellence that allows projects selected under Horizon, but not finding funding there to be covered by cohesion funding. But as you were saying, Magda, this is about the mechanics, and the mechanics is only part of the story. Because for all this to work, there needs to be a sort of strategic alignment, whereby the activities, the missions, the partnerships that are developed under Horizon meet the needs and the capacities and the potential that exist at the regional and local level. And this is why in the next round of cohesion policy, we are continuing to invite regions and member states to use the so-called smart specialization strategies as the building block around which to construct also these synergies. You know that these strategies are in fact a way to bring together all the actors at the local and regional level, the business community, the research institutes and laboratories, the public administration, civil society, to think about where regions want to be in few years' time, building on their potentials, understanding what the capacities are. And these strategies are very much in our view, the instruments around which regions should think, also in terms of how to build bridges with Horizon. And we are now in the process, in fact, starting the discussion with member states, with regions on the next round of programs, and this will be very much at the center of that conversation. Thank you.
Nicola, thanks a lot. Again, indeed, you highlighted two very important aspects, the two dimensions that are key and on which we have been working together, the more funding and the mechanics, of course, because this is also needed, but especially the strategies and the vision that it's needed behind any actions that is done in cooperation and using the different programs. And also this call for looking at the disparities, of course, is very important. This innovation divide that needs to be tackled. And all these things together, of course, creates as well the link with the Horizon Europe and some parts of Horizon Europe as well that are looking into that. So thanks a lot. I'm sure, again, that this is all these novelties that you mentioned to be in the next programming period of cohesion as of 1st of July. We learn it will be very much welcomed by the regions and cities, and I'm sure that they will be doing the best use of it, but we have to guide them as well, I think, and maybe later on there will be questions on that for you too. We move now to the next speaker, and here is with us Marco Marcula. We know since some years already, and actually you were president of the Committee of the Regions when we launched the Knowledge Exchange platform. So you have been at that time a pioneer in this exercise, believing in this possibility of exchanges between the research community and the regional and cities policymakers. And now you are a pioneer, apparently, also in helping cities to join and getting involved in missions. So maybe it would be very nice if you share with us and with the audience what is exactly these initiatives and what are the lessons learned on these 6 biggest Finnish cities collaboration. Please, Marco, floor is yours.
Thank you, Magda, and let me first thank all the organizers, both on the Commission side and the Committee of the Regions side, because this is really a very, very important and essential event that we are having. And I was asked to really, as you said in the question as well, so to tell about the collaboration experience of the 6 biggest cities in Finland, and that's why I produced a set of slides, and I'll go quickly through them, some very fast, but they include a lot of basic information, and they include as well a lot of links. So for the participants and audience, so you can definitely after this as well use this as a material. But let me first start by stressing that actually, as Rosalinda started her contribution, so the action really happens at the local and regional level. And that's why this collaboration between Commission now, and especially based on our joint action plan. And I took on the first slide, so some of the key focus areas of what we have agreed with the Commissioner Maria Gabriel and Committee of the Regions, so where we want to focus. And the role of the Committee of the Region is especially experimenting, prototyping, testing many of the activities at the local and regional level, and increasing that level, the outcomes, the influence, what the cities and regions can do. And when I talk, and when we talk about cities or regions, so it's not only the public authorities, but it's very strongly all the citizens, meaning industry, large and small. It includes all the educational establishments, from schools to universities, research institutes. So it's practically everyone on board. And that's why this, as a process, as was said as one of the conclusions from the first part of this CAP event, so the process on moving to era hubs and getting more out of the horizon, that's the crucial one. And that's why in this, when we look on these focus areas, I highlighted there in the slide with yellow color some of the key topics of instruments that we are committed to collaborate, assisting the local level collaboration by to focus more on evidence-based policy making in the region. And then on the red, there are a few of the concrete measures, instruments that we can use. And on that, so the whole spectrum of the instruments by the Commission is crucial, and especially the Joint Research Centre plays here a crucial role, and that's linked to smart specialization, regional strategies, which were well developed and now showcased as well in the previous session. So I don't want to go more on that, but stress that it's really time to integrate all these instruments, using several instruments, and that means that we need local level, regional level. We need these our local roadmaps. It's climate roadmap, but it's as well as the CO stress heavily Green Deal going local kind of action plans. And then they need to use all those instruments, including the investments, public and private as well. So I stress heavily here, even in the research, stress heavily the private investments. And that's why these instruments are so crucial. If we take the next slide, so that starts to show that what these 6 cities we have used in Finland, the urban development part of our cohesion funds, totaling to 100 million euros. This ending 7-year program period on the increasing the collaboration between the 6 biggest cities, and that especially means that our civil servants who are in charge of the climate neutrality processes, who are in charge of digitalizing our city processes, they have used, but not only between city civil servants, but especially with local industries. And that's why what we have here as well, figures that 4,000 companies participated and contributed on developing. So there's a lot of this kind of evidence. There is as well a link to as an example, the ESPO voluntary local review, how we've implementing, mobilizing activities, implementing SDGs. So, and if we link that to next slide, so there as well, so we kind of try to show that every city of the 6 cities, so they had their own action plan, what they wanted to reach, their ambition level, but they worked on that more and more together. So we have there as an example, so all northern part of Finland focusing especially on 5G networking, opening what digitalization means for cities, but it really was not only for that city, but collaborating with all those cities. And this is something that when we now look the EU missions, that's why in Finland we've planned already with the 6 cities, is that we could contribute to form a consortium, so to collaborate together and within the EU be a strong instrument encouraging other member states that they need to have these local regional networks, and then they collaborate throughout Europe. So what Rosalinda stressed heavily for the importance of the mission. So I definitely agree strongly on that. And our experience shows that it should not only be 100 separate smart cities, but how them in one member state or one region can collaborate more and form these European partnerships. And that's why this European era hubs, its European dimension is so crucial. If we take the next slide, then quickly, 1 or 2 more. Here are some links that you can go through the results of this learn. So these are really lessons learned. Next slide shows on as well, so that we became in a global UN study, Finland became ranking number 1 on how we are implementing the activities to achieve sustainable development. And on that, the industrial contribution is really the crucial, and we are happy to share the results of that. And then if we go 1 slide further, so this just shows on that there's I took a couple of the front pages from all around the world, so that there's a lot of good reports, and our European responsibility is as well targeted to help on this global progress. So we need to collaborate heavily, but we need to document, develop the concepts, and on that. And if we go then to the final slide, so my last, not the final, but this one shows on that what does it mean in one city and city region, Oulu in the northern Finland, so focusing on their digitalization. That stresses the importance, and green and digital, they need to go hand in hand, operationalizing the activities, and again, doing this in a broad, integrating the European digital innovation hubs to be work of this, but especially focusing now how we can take this new development of ERA hubs as well, strong European partnerships by that. And then if I take my final concluding slide, so there I kind of stress that when we now look the whole spectrum of potential instruments and activities, so we need to understand, improve the understanding of the innovation ecosystems, especially as both Commissioner Maria Gabriel and President Apostolos Tzitzikostas said strongly in emphasizing their opening statement, so that it's place-based. So it's there as well. And when we talk about place-based, it's multi-level governance at the city level or the regional level. It's the political decision makers, it's the full-time employed mayors, coordinators, citizens, and these partnering stakeholders, especially the industry, schools, universities, and others. So, and there we need to use these different EU instruments as well, so that we can really learn together. And what Nicola said just with the newly established or showed the results of the latest innovation scoreboard. So I need to say that I'm very disappointed. My Helsinki region, southern part of Finland, we are not anymore the number one, but we are the number two after Stockholm. So we need to keep on collaborating and competing with our next door neighbors, Sweden again, so on. So, but that's a bit the same mentality that let me here stress the European UEFA 2020 football championships. Belgium number one in the world, so Finland was close to as good as Belgium yesterday evening. We lost 2-0, but we were tied up 0-0 until 75th minute. So we were close to show that what is this healthy competition really mean. And that's why we Finns, we are committed on European collaboration and partnerships. We are happy to share our good practices, but do and increasing the European partnerships, and that focus on the missions as definitely as well, but integrating cohesion policy. And we are ready here in the Helsinki region as well. So we'll showcase in concrete terms how we have developed in the recent years, so that the use of different instruments. What is the role of cohesion financing, but especially what is the role of public-private partnerships and the different stakeholders. And I think there's a lot to learn from that. And that's what the EU as its best is. So it's really strong European value added in all our collaboration. Thank you very much.
Dear Marco, thanks a lot. Very rich presentation on this initiative, and that creates the links, in fact, with the mission, and to show how the 6 Finnish cities are, in fact, working on that. As you say, indeed, I like this healthy competition. It's everything very positive. If it helps to improve even further while you are already at a very top level. I like in your last slides, but we will maybe come back to that. You mentioned the science meet regions, and in this integration of and collaboration between different initiatives, we have to mention as well that the CAP will be also strengthening the links with the science meet regions initiatives, and having in October a bit of an innovation camp, and there as well I think you are a bit behind as well this type of ideas. So thanks a lot again. Probably we come back again to some of your very interesting points, but now I like to move to the last speaker, last but not least, Tanya. So you are the mayor of Gabrovo. We have been hearing from Marco about Finland. Now we move to Bulgaria, in fact, and let's see whether there are still similarities or what is the way to go along with these challenges. So you are, as I say, mayor of Gabrovo, which is the administrative center also of the province. And of course, you are confronted with the multiplicity of challenges that normally cities are facing. So what do you think, also having heard from the earlier speakers, what do you think that the cities can do to seize these opportunities that Horizon Europe is offering to tackle these challenges that they are facing? So please, Tanya, floor is yours.
Thank you, Mrs. Di Carli, dear Commission colleagues, dear Marco. It is always a pleasure to listen to and to get inspired by your experience. Ladies and gentlemen, it gives me a real pleasure to be part of today's Knowledge Exchange platform event, and I would also like to join the congratulations to the Commission and also to the Committee of the Regions for continuing this flagship initiatives. I'm also very happy to share with you my views at a very critical moment, the beginning of the new programming period and also the new year, which the European Union will also start. It is with the opening of the conference on the future of Europe, which will happen these days. As time is relatively short, allow me to make a couple of more general and then a few more specific recommendations related to the topic of my expression, which is the opportunities that are offered by Horizon Europe to us, to local and regional players, which for many times today was mentioned that we have, of course, key and crucial role. Firstly, let me immediately state that in the past decades, and I'm sure that it is not only me, we have observed a paradigm shift among local and regional authorities, especially in East, Central and Southern Europe. This shift is towards research and innovation funds and Horizon 2020 program, respectively. If I have to summarize, they are no longer destined to the front-running regions and cities only, but there is a consistent effort to support and involve a greater number of territories and, of course, local players. Secondly, in some particular areas of innovation, such as IT, mechanical engineering, and energy efficiency, East Central European regions are rapidly catching up with the other Western counterparts. This is, of course, due also to the growth of local innovation capacity and increased foreign direct investments in small and medium-sized enterprises, universities, and various research centers that were created. This happens both via structural and Horizon funds, but also with the support of national research and education programs. On a third place, some local and regional authorities in the eastern part of the continent have not only begun to use European and national funds in a synergetic way, but they have also helped grow regional innovation systems applying the bottom-up approach. It is just to mention the success stories of many of the capital cities of the Central and Eastern Europe, or to mention my neighbors Cluj-Napoca and Iași in Romania, or even to mention our efforts here in Gabrovo, which will help you understand the process which is in advanced phase. We also try to cooperate, participating in many international projects involving also Horizon 2020 with different regions across Europe. And we also have interesting experience with ESPO in Finland and Navarra in Spain. Here I'm talking about my city. Now, regarding the specific question that you asked me on climate change mitigation. Yes, we as local and regional authorities, as well as our local companies, schools, universities, and of course citizens, we are trying actively to be engaged in ensuring that the green transitions really becomes a reality. And this is an everyday effort. In a couple of days, I would like to mention to you that in Gabrovo, we will hold a major international conference together with representatives from the European Commission, from the European Parliament, from the Committee of the Region. Mr. Marco will be part of this event. Covenant of Mayors, of course, many representatives from local and regional authorities in Bulgaria, and some different institutions. And the focus of this conference is energy efficiency and practical climate change mitigation measures, a topic which is very important for us local authorities. Last year, Gabrovo, probably you know, was awarded European Green Leaf, and also we are nominated as an European entrepreneurial region, which shows our commitment to work locally in green and digital transition. Let me conclude by saying something which is related to the post-COVID recovery process and the future of regions just like mine. The strategic transformation agenda of the European Union is very ambitious. It is the green and digital transitions. These objectives are well understood by the regional players and most of the local stakeholders. However, in the majority of the Southern and Eastern Europe regions, we need some more additional support, and it is related both to EU funds and expertise, which will help us further grow our innovation ecosystems. We need particular support in the fields of clean urban transport, electrical charging stations, smart energy metering, sharing successful innovation models related, of course, to circular economy, connectivity, broadband, and clean air. I also very much welcome the support from the Horizon Europe with regards to the research missions, and I hope that we will really be beneficial from them. We should, however, be very careful, and it was mentioned many times, not to further the division and the innovation gaps, but on the contrary, to work to overcome these negative tendencies. We also need new types of initiatives linking our innovation systems, such as Go Local initiative, innovation camps. This year, we will have the 6th edition of this very interesting event. The widening measures, which you, Mrs. Di Carli, you are responsible, but also but we also need excellent interinstitutional projects such as knowledge exchange platforms, Science Meets Region, which are joint initiatives of the Committee of the Regions. And I see that the time is advancing and would stop here. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thanks a lot, Tanya. And again, very rich contribution. Congratulations to Gabrovo for the last year Green Leave. This means that you are doing things right. And you have highlighted a lot of interesting points that I think will be very useful to other cities that want to perform as well as you do. So I like a lot, you mentioned as well the fact that you have been using, in fact, Horizon and the RDF. At the same time, there is this bottom-up approach, but also this view to the international programs. So I think a lot of things together, and all together they help, in fact, to reach the objectives. But you mentioned as well certain challenges, very important challenges, the need of support. So already I can answer, but maybe our colleagues as well, they come in on that. For instance, in terms of support, and you mentioned the recovery and resilience facilities, which we are following very closely, of course, for the R&I part. We are providing support as well through the policy support facility for the R&I dimension and the R&I reforms. And of course, there exists also also other type of supports like the TSI for that. So this is a more linked to having recommendation, the advice, peer-to-peer advice. But of course, you mentioned as well Horizon. Missions is one of these elements you mentioned as well. So maybe then Rosalinde wants to further elaborate on that, but actually maybe it is also, she can elaborate following the question. So we are closing now the moment of the intervention. Thanks a lot for the rich inputs you have been providing, and we are opening now the questions and answer session. Will last around 10 minutes. We will see the questions that comes in. So I invite again the audience to use the chat for that and to post the questions, and if you want, you can also indicate exactly the speakers you want eventually to address the question to. And I see that already in the screen that we have some questions that have been posted. The first one is for Rosalinde. So the question is whether there are regions also involved in other missions. So you mentioned the ones probably you are more familiar to, but maybe you know about other missions as well. And if there are also other regions that have been targeted. So maybe I give you the floor to answer this question, please.
Thank you, Magda, and let me also say that it was extremely inspirational to listen to the other panelists, and I really think, for me, it's very clear that we need to go local in order to have this global impact. And indeed, with regard to the missions, there are actually 5 missions that we are currently preparing. 4 of them are directly related to the European Green Deal. So I zoomed in on the cities mission and the adaptation mission, but of course also in the other Green Deal missions, which are focusing on the oceans and on the European soils. Again, it's very clear that the regions will have a very important role to play. And of course, this is by nature. The missions are really there to link up with the local level, with the citizens, and to address together the global challenges that we are facing. So absolutely, the 4 other Green Deal missions, all of them are very much focused on the local level, and we really need to have the regions involved there. I can also say a few words, if I may, Magda, on the governance, because this is very important. And we have really seen that, whenever we want to make results, we need to make sure eventually that we have our citizens on board. Because, we can design amazing policies in order to accelerate the green and digital transitions, but if we do not have the buy-in from our citizens, then we will not be successful. And this is really also one of the novelties that we are introducing in the missions, is that we want to really go to innovative governance models to make sure that we involve in the rollout and the implementation of the missions the citizens from the beginning, to make sure that we have the buy-in and we basically co-create the missions together. Thank you.
Thanks a lot, Rosalinde, also to enlarge it also to the second questions that we had on the governance, and this is extremely important indeed. I move now to Nicola. So the question is whether you can say a bit more of the added value of synergies for regions. And I would add maybe myself, because I'm interested to that. You mentioned the smart specialization, the bottom-up process, the importance of that, how we can reconcile this to the kind of idea of a bottom-up, of a top-down approach of mission, which is not exactly that. But how do you see? Sometimes we receive this question. Maybe you can clarify how regions can move around these 2 different concepts to reach the results, please.
Look, Magda, on this second question, I'm not sure that there is necessarily a tension there. What I think is necessary for a region to think very openly is first to identify where they stand, where they are, where their strengths are. Because it's not useful to engage in things on which your economic structure is not prepared, your civil society is not ready. And this is why that reflection is so important. And it's really about governance at the end of the day. It's not about doing this or that. It's about deciding where you want to be and where you want to go. And once you've done that work, then look at what is happening under Horizon and find the places where you know you can contribute and create those bridges. I think that we should avoid a contract or just a position between the bottom up and the top down. The two policies have also follow different logics. One is to promote the best research and innovation possible. The other is to try to move toward the innovation frontier. And at a certain point, these two will meet, provided that reflection is done properly. And this is why the role of these strategies and this reflection is so important. And there is one element that emerged from this discussion, but also from all the work that we are doing, is that at the end of the day, it's really about capacities. It's really about institutions. And you need to build those institutions and that capacity to be able then to participate in the different policies, instrument, initiatives that the EU can offer. And this is why, just to conclude on this, that the reason why in the next round of the smart specialization strategies, we are very much focusing on capacities. Because it doesn't really matter whether you decide that where your strengths are on agro-industry or hydrogen or biotechnology. The important is that you create that ownership and that agreement of all the partners around the table to move in that direction. And this is about, again, capacity, administrations, and institutions.
Thanks a lot, Nicola. And I fully share with you that there is no dichotomy there is not contraposition between these two elements, the smart specialization and missions. There is very well the way to go together. But I like that I gave you the chance to tell to those that have doubts, and I think you convinced them. Marco, it's to you the next question. Actually, there are two. I will go maybe for the second one because it seems to me a bit more concrete. So they are asking, okay, the 6 cities are collaborating in mission. Are they forming a sort of interconnected ecosystem? Are there other forms of collaboration that you envisage? Can you say a bit on that? Thanks.
Yes, and I think our experience definitely is something valuable for the whole Europe, because working for the whole program period, it took years to create the concept, but as well we are improving that all the time. So it proved to be that those, let's say, civil servants in charge of digitalizing the processes, city as a service mentality, school as a service, changed a lot their own mentality, but that happened very much when collaborating with other cities as well. So they've learned to collaborate more and more. They have a good network of people who share the same targets of their daily work. But it needs as well so that we, the political decision makers, we need to spend more of our time in learning from the others in other cities as well. And that's why the science meet regions, or with the Joint Research Center, the smart specialization activities or innovation camps relates to Gabrovo as well, where Joint Research Center has helped the COR to organizing these innovation camps, and Gabrovo has been one of the best examples how the mayor herself is there 3 days in a row collaborating with the secondary school level children or some university students or some industrialists. Even the Deputy Prime Minister of Bulgaria joined to this camp for several days because it was his home city and he wanted to contribute. And it's not only one-time event, but it's really a collaboration. Or what we have been doing with the Baltic Sea, organizing collaboration on analyzing smart city, smart specialization strategies and how to do more. Now with the COVID time, the program needed to move to virtual collaboration, but that as well seems to work. So we are ready to share this experience, and that's why when listening to what Rosalinda says about the innovative governance model, so maybe that is something that definitely from Finland and from the Baltic Sea and the COR we could contribute to now on the planning phase of how to implement the missions, especially because it needs to, all those 5 missions need to collaborate with each other as well, learn from the others, so on, testing new ways, and it takes a long time, but that's why the investments, this is why Europe is challenging our own processes to put to reach the high ambition level. So yes, definitely more of this in-depth collaboration, developing personal level as well, personal mastery and how to do more together.
Thanks a lot, Marco. A lot of good advices. We end our session of questions and answers with the last question to Ms. Hirschova. Tanya, so does your province foresee to get engaged in the missions? So this is the question for you.
Very nice question, and the answer, the shortest one, but the decisive, is yes, of course, because as I've mentioned, we are a city which is committed to develop as a modern European city, which involves green policies and also digitalization and innovation on its platform. We are a city which has been working very systematically to apply the quadruple approach, which means to involve local authorities together with local industry and to match the interest of the research and innovation entities. We have a technical university, and also to get on board the citizens. That's why I mentioned we are very involved in developing international projects, and by establishing different partnerships, this helped us establish an innovation ecosystem in our city, and this makes us more open and more convinced that this is the way to reach and to be successful in these important digital and green transitions, which of course poses quite many challenges, especially for a country like Bulgaria. But I believe that similar missions will be very instrumental for enhancing our capacity, because I totally agree with the former speakers that this is something which should constantly be in a process of evolvement, and which is, how to say, a guarantee for the achievement of the ambitious goals that we all have to follow. So for Gavrovo, this is really very high on the agenda, to continue working with European institutions and to form partnerships which will enrich our capacity and will open our city to the European perspectives.
Very good. Thanks a lot, Tanya. And I think you also covered the last request I normally have, because we are 3 minutes now to the end. And I normally like to ask to each of the speakers what are, in 3 words, but it needs to be 3 words, the key advice for regions, those that are listening to us, and cities, in order to successfully participate and get engaged in Horizon. I think, Tanya, you mentioned to getting in the partnership, you mentioned that already in your answer, in this answer you just gave. Maybe I move now to Marco Marcola in 3 words.
European value added and partnerships.
Perfect. Thanks a lot. Nicola? You are muted.
I'm thinking of 3 words. Think strategically and open up, because one of the problems that we saw is that regions tend to look inward. Yeah. Do that job, but then open up and establish relations with the rest of Europe.
Very good. Thank you, Nicola. Rosalinde?
3 words, very challenging after these very inspirational 3 words. I would say just do it, participate.
Very good. And this is why, the reason why I ask this at the end is because then you make my work easier to conclude, because I have already gathered the key words concluding the session. They are very good. They are to be integrated, to be strategic, to do partnership, so and to act. For me is also to be informed, keep being informed. And linked to that, I need to do some advertising, because we realize how much important it is for regions to know what is going on. Tomorrow and the day after, the R&I days are on. We have sessions related to working with cohesion hand in hand on the 24th, on synergies as well, and also on the role of local and regional actors and regions in the recovery. So please follow these sessions, because you can be inspired and get extra information apart from the very rich discussions we had until now. For the CAP, so be active as well. You were saying do it, just be active. So if you want to get involved, for regions and cities want to get involved in replicating this type of events at their local level, because this is important to reach out to all the stakeholders, please do it through offering and volunteering through the Committee of the Regions to the peer-to-peer events that follow up normally these CAP events. And finally, from my side, be brave. Think out of the box and try to seize all the opportunities, because we have worked in order to give you all the opportunities, and it's very important that you do your best to seize them. And we are there to support you with all the services of the Commission, Committee of the Regions, and also good practices coming from other cities and regions. And with that, I think I'm finished. I thank a lot all our speakers today for their sharing their knowledge and their advices, and to the audience that has been so active in asking very relevant questions. And have a nice afternoon. Bye.